Okay, welcome to Take Two with Hawk on the Road. Normally this is Curtis Queelan, but today it's the Hawk coming to you from Fairview Jewell Elementary. We appreciate you listening in. We have a guest with us today, Mr. Hudson Henderson with the GLS architect firm. And so kicking us off today, all of you can give Curtis grief, but we just wanted to make sure that we could come to you today and show him that we can do it sometimes without Curtis. But no, we miss Curtis, and he'll be back with you next week. Next week we will have a guest, Mr. Robert Turner, Director of Career Tech, and we look forward to visiting with him. Before we kind of launch into this one, I wanted to address some things, and not necessarily all of it has to do with the bond, because as you know, in dealing with the bond, once the bond's been called, ethically we can't advocate for or against, but we can push out information as far as educating folks on exactly what the facts are. And so I wanted to walk through some things. We had Channel 10 come yesterday and did an interview with us, and they pushed out information in that regard. But I wanted to address that from the perspective of what they didn't show in that clip that I wanted to make sure that was conveyed to everyone listening out in Bulldog Nation was. We worked through that facility committee, the community-driven facility committee. And when they came to the board, you can look back into the YouTube segments on our website, and you can walk back through that. But the recommendation is was that the board would go out for a November ballot bond proposal, which they've done. They recommended a $165 million bond proposal broken into 3 propositions, and we've went over those, and we can walk back through some of them today. But I think the thing that the billboard that the Channel 10 came and talked to us about that was kind of left out there was that the other part of the recommendation was that the Board of Trustees has a fund balance that operates just like our savings accounts do, with some exception that the Texas Education Agency requires certain amounts of money to be placed in there to cash flow, to cover insurance, and that there is a supply there that is rated based on the district's first report. And the district has gotten an A rating on the first report, and that's the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. The district is very proud of that A rating in that regard. But the district also has assigned monies into fund balance. $16 million has been assigned into fund balance. And so when the committee had ranked the proposals, obviously there's well over $400 million worth of needs, and Hudson has went through that, and he sat through all those committee meetings. Those $400 million worth of needs obviously had to be prioritized, because once again, $175 million starts to get beyond our 50-cent threshold. That's the maximum amount that the INS side can increase through voter approval. You have the M&O, the maintenance and operations side, and the INS side. And so, folks, here's the deal. We all can have problems with the tax system that's out there. And I don't know of any board member or community member that didn't wish that it was different. I think everyone that I've heard from convey that they wish that there were multiple streams of revenue that come in that would alleviate some of the property tax burden. But nonetheless, school districts only have property taxes that they can draw from to build capital projects. That is the intended mode of continuing to ensure that schools have facilities that are within their life cycle in districts all over the state of Texas. So Like it or not like it, the bond INS side is the way that school districts address facilities and address when schools go out of their life cycle. But with that said, most districts are on a 10-year rotation, according to our financial advisors, to where they every 10 years, unless they're fast growth, they go out for a bond. And it's been 2 decades since CCISD has went out for a bond. You know, and when I'm talking about that there's a cap, you've got the 50 cents that you can levy, and you've got $2.1 million in net taxable assets valued in our school district before any freezes occur. You know, and you got, so why can't we do what Killeen does, or why does Killeen able to build this building and the cents are cheaper than what our cents are on the tax rate? It's because of that taxable value. We are an extremely property poor school district, and that comes into play in multiple things. But with all of that said, you know, the district has gotten a $76 million fund balance, and when you start walking through all the things that have to be assigned, $16 million of that is for construction, $7.5 million of it is for deferred maintenance, for things like air conditioners, for things like roofs, and those things. But of that needs assessment, those over $400 million, what the committee has said is, school board, take that $16 million and prioritize it and have a plan for executing it. So in the month of September, that's exactly what's going to happen. So with that said, I hope that clears up some misnomers. You know, when people say that the district has a large amount of money, they're talking about a scale, and so you know, money is relative to different things, but you know, you can't fund balance your way out of overcrowding. You can't fund balance your way out of these buildings that are ending their life cycle. And so you know, like that or not, then you have to go over and try to look at ways of financing it under the legally drawn up method from the Texas Education Agency. So with that said, we have Mr. Henderson here with us today, and recapping from our earlier meeting, you know, when we started down the road of looking at architects, I reached out to 2 different architect firms and 3 different construction firms to look at numbers and get numbers, and this is people who is dealing with that every day. And so, you know, Hudson, I'm going to lead off with you, and I say this, you know, every firm has its signature, and the signature of Goodwin Lassiter has been, and to me has always been, part of the company staple with Larry Lassiter as the kind of the godfather of the company, that the designs are engineered to be very cost-effective buildings. And I know that I see different architects draw stuff up, and you know, they have different ways of designing buildings, and you know, some of those firms draw up to win architectural prizes. But I think when you think of Goodwin Lassiter, you think of fiscally responsible buildings that come out of what you guys draw up.
Right. We like to say that we're value driven, and we like to get into our communities that we work in. You know, we specialize in education. We work with school districts that are 1A to 6A, rural, and really getting in there and figuring out the nuts and bolts of what their community needs, what their school district needs, and then figuring out how we can maximize what the district already has and building upon that. Sometimes it is new, sometimes it's a total replacement, sometimes it's in addition to, and sometimes it's just a refurbishment or a renovation of something that you already have. And we like to come to school districts with the approach of the voter and what you're asking them to go out and do. We don't take that lightly, and that you're going to ask them to vote to change their taxes. And we want to make sure that we're good stewards of those dollars that they're putting in front of us to work with. And we are providing the students of Cove ISD with as many resources and as many facilities as possible to make them successful moving forward.
Well, and you and Jennifer and Bowie too. I know that you guys came and y'all sat through all of the facility meetings, and you did listen to the community, and you took those prioritizations back, and then you kind of helped come up with a plan. And so I'm gonna just ask you some of the FAQs, frequently asked questions, is that, you know, why is there not a new high school in the plan instead of what we have here?
Short answer is dollars. It's what it costs. Cove is a large high school when you're looking at square footage. Cove needs more square footage than what you have now to meet the needs of the programs and the students. And square foot costs dollars. I mean, that translates very, very easily. And to go back and rebuild on a new site somewhere else, exactly what you have now is still exceeding a fund balance capacity. To build what you have now plus what you need, the things that we have planned in this bond, the expansions of the current facilities, grossly exceeds the capacity. It's just, it's no one's fault. It's just not there. And so we have to reevaluate and think, what can we work with that you have? And what it boils down to, Cove High School is good bones. It really is. It's a well-built school. It's been well taken care of. It's quite frankly just dated, and it's not meeting the needs of current teaching methods and current programs. And I know CTE gets a lot of focus here, as it should. I mean, that's the fastest growing department in any school district in the state of Texas. We generally design facilities, they come in waves through our office. At one point in time, we're designing a lot of elementary schools, and then we're designing a lot of high schools, and then we're designing a lot of gyms. Right now, we're in the era of CTEs, and Cove has an extensive list of programs that you offer, a very impressive list of programs, but your facilities don't match it. And you're sending these students, I know you talked in last week's episode with Bowie about sending students to go compete, and the students they're competing against.
Right.
And quite frankly, Cove is behind when it comes to having facilities to properly prepare the students. And what we've got proposed is not only going to bring Cove up to everyone else's standards, we're going to set the standard with what a CTE facility could and should be for preparing a high school student for the workforce.
So, you know, I think one of the most salient points in what you're talking about there is just that good bones in that building.
Yes.
You know, because if the bones is brittle, then we got a whole different problem.
Correct.
We've reached a state of crisis.
Correct.
And so being able to look at that and to be able to renovate that building is just, like I've continued to say, it's a Chip and Joanna type approach to, you know, they take a facility or take really a house, and they go in there in demolition day, and when they leave it, it looks completely new and everything. And so I think that the things that we've talked about in former episodes, for those of you who haven't tuned in until now, is that you've got a footprint of over 500,000 square feet in that high school, and that doesn't include all of the other ancillary programs and things like that. And so when you Hudson and these guys, I know that they're building in Canton. They've coming to an end in Woodville, on Alaska.
Waverly,
they've been
Buffalo.
they're doing work, and they've got a pulse on what construction cost it is. And so when you multiply all that out, you go definitely up north of $200 million. And, our 50-cent bond capacity puts us a little under 175 million. And so even with fund balance, you've got more problems than you can really comprehensively address in that situation. And so I think that when you start talking about construction, the other salient point I think you bring up is this: out of all the districts that you've done in the past 3 years, probably not too many of them are the same. As far as everybody, from my standpoint and my travels and working with districts across the state, is that they're all very unique in what they're approaching curriculum-wise.
Absolutely.
And so it's hard for Cove to compare itself even to another 6A school. But it's definitely hard to compare numbers from prior to COVID.
Correct.
And I know people don't want to hear that COVID's over with. Well, we didn't go back in society to the point of where, we would like to take and stick our foot back in the stream of where it was and pick up and take off. But like it or not, COVID did change some things in society.
It did.
Especially in construction.
Well, and, we talk about COVID and pre-COVID and things like that is this singular point in time. And it's not. It has residual effects that are sticking with us here. No, we could not go back to pre-COVID numbers. But if we're being honest, we can't go back to post-COVID numbers either. Let's say the world shut down in 2019, 2020. We can't go back to 21 numbers or even 22 numbers. We're talking a November 25 bond election, so we need to be talking fourth quarter 26 numbers. We have to be forecasting that and the possibilities of what could be. And I think we all know and can agree it's not going to go down.
Well, it hadn't yet.
It hadn't yet, and it's not going to. Maybe we can slow it going up, but it's not going down. And so we're forecasting out. At GLS, we have a great relationship with a number of contractors that work across the state of Texas, Gallagher being one of them. And so we believe that we have a really good pulse on the economics of construction around the state and what it's taking. And we think forecasting our numbers that we're right on target for that. And so the numbers that we presented to Cove, we believe them to be very realistic. So,
and for those of you who are listening out there, Dripping Springs just went out to bond a 2025 bond in May, and that bond was for a tick under $300 million. And so, listen, it's at some point the numbers are what they are.
Correct.
And we've tried to show everybody how we've gotten those numbers and everything, and so I think anything else at this point is confusion. But the other thing I think that we also talked about and vetted through the process, Hudson, was the notion of pulling a campus of kids out and having a 750 high school somewhere, and we looked at a $60 to $70 million project on that as well. But y'all digested that too and looked at, because you're not just looking at solving one, you've got to solve a comprehensive problem in
Absolutely.
this. So kind of walk through your thoughts on that.
So one of the great things about Coppers Cove, Texas, is when you think Coppers Cove, Texas, you think Coppers Cove High School. you think Bulldog football. In Texas, high schools are the identity of the town that they're in when they're single high school towns. I grew up, born and raised in a single high school town, and I love it. And we will be a one high school town as long as humanly possible.
The purple's going to bleed.
The purple will
forever.
bleed. The purple will bleed. And you know, my first interaction with Copperas Cove and Copperas Cove ISD was my senior year of high school. We played Cove in the playoffs in, I believe it was 2005, in Baylor's Floyd Casey Stadium. And so I'm born and raised in Lufkin, diehard Lufkin Panther. And so I was involved with several things my senior year. And, you know, we were a highly successful program, and we went across the state and played a lot of schools. And for the first time ever, when standing on the track before a football game and turning and looking at the other side, did I feel like I was looking at somebody who was like us.
Right.
You know, we got thrown into the Woodlands, Conroe, College Park, the Houston schools, my later years of high school. We're not them, they're not us, and so we didn't really fit in there. And so for the first time, I felt like I was looking at a school, at a program, at a community that was a lot like we were, that had the same amount of pride that we had. And it was really nice to see. And then I started coming here to work with the district on this bond process. And it's one of those places where you just pull into town and it kind of feels like home a little bit. And so I am a one high school person through and through. As just a citizen, a voter, I don't like the idea of breaking it out into another school because of the logistics and the liability that we're putting on a district to move kids back and forth.
It becomes a logistical nightmare.
It does. I mean, the insurance carry, the bus transportation, and that's particularly true if you break out ninth grade, which is something that we looked at, doing a ninth grade center. Most districts are getting away from doing that. And then we also looked at doing a smaller high school, doing a complete high school just for a smaller number of students. And from a facility standpoint, it doesn't make sense because you're dropping down to two smaller ones, but they both need gymnasiums. They both need theaters.
Duplication of services.
Absolutely. And duplication of services, duplication of
Staffing.
staff, duplication of facilities, doubling your insurance, doubling everything else you have. The operations costs, you've got to purchase the land, you've got to build it. Just because you build it doesn't mean Cove High School gets to stay exactly how it is. It's
Right.
still an inadequate facility for the programs at which you're trying to teach.
Right.
And so while, yes, we could go build a smaller facility somewhere else, it's not a good use of school funds.
Well, you know, from just synthesizing that, you know, and you're talking about the redundancy of services, that model would be no different than the last bond, where you're taking facilities from one side of the campus and moving them to the other side of the campus. And what does that really buy you? You still got the facility, it's just on the other side of the campus. Right. And it may be nicer and neater over there or whatever. But in that smaller model, you know, you move to a smaller school, and then arguably it eats up the lion's share of your capacity, and conversely the ability to do anything with it. And then you've got a school that is still has students in it at Cove High that still has, you know, at the end of the day, the culinary lab there is still unable to do the things that a commercial and a project needs to do. You've still got issues in that regard. You still got to you know, address some things electrically, you know, those things that have to be it's the end of the life cycle, and it still has to be purged. And then you haven't even talked about Fairview, where we're sitting at today.
Correct.
And
yeah, we've got
Cove
two other
High.
campuses.
And so it kind of take on, a whole other project, and now you've got 4 sources that you're trying to pour money into rather than 3.
Right.
So let's kind of switch gears. I think we have between you and Bowie and all of the people, if they want to be informed about why not one high school, why not a smaller high school, I think we've laid out a tremendous amount of content that they can listen to and synthesize. But moving forward in this whole project, I definitely do not want to just leave behind because the main purpose of what we're trying to do is to get people to understand what we're trying to do. And so when Curtis gets back, I know we're about to stand up the website, the Bond 2025 website. That thing will have a lot of information on it, as well as for our viewers, these footprint diagrams that you'll be able to see. We'll have them to where you can see those. It will also have times for, we're going to do some walk and learns, tours, if you would, through the district, so that you can see real live and in color what is going on or what's trying to be addressed. And then we're going to have some roundtable discussions. Some people may call that a town hall meeting, so that you can get your questions answered. And then aside from that, I am on tour. I've got 2 engagements this evening. I'm speaking to anybody that wants to listen and ask questions so that we can get as many people informed as possible. But the guy that gave expert advice to the committee is here, and I think it would be crazy if we didn't kind of just walk through and let him talk about, as you look at these pictures, these diagrams that we put up, let him kind of talk about, and we'll start with Cove High. What is it that you tried to do in Proposition A at Cove High? That's the a little tick under 75,000 square foot workforce center with the storefront, and then expanding the cafeteria, and then really realigning and Chip and Joannaing the inside of that building, kind of make it come to life for us, like, as my wife would say, Nicholas Sparks.
Okay. I'm going to resituate myself here, because this is where I get really excited about what I talk about.
These tables were not made for 6-footers.
They were not. So I think the first thing to note on how we approached this was we didn't start at 0. So we had all of the information from the previous bond, and we're able to go in and kind of dissect and figure out,
because the needs were still the needs.
The needs are still the needs.
That's what people say. Well, it's the same bond. The same needs are still there. You just addressed it differently.
Correct. And we're trying to address it maybe a little more efficiently, a little more economically. And I'm not going to rain on any other architect's work. We all have
they just
our
have
methods.
different missions.
Yeah, we have our methods and how we approach issues and problems that need to be dealt with. And so we were able to jump into their plans and figure out kind of maybe what their thought process was on why they were doing a couple things to address certain needs. And then we started going back and reevaluating what needed to be done, what could be kind of a 2 birds, 1 stone situation, where we could maximize dollars. And so we broke it down. We tore it all down and took it down to the bones of the last bond and back to specifically the needs. And so then we worked with the district, got a bit of information regarding your course selections, your course guide, and the curriculum that you're teaching, the programs that you're offering, and working with your staff list and the number of classrooms. I know right now you've got so many teachers that are sharing
32.
classrooms, 32. And that's just...
And that has cost the staff because, I mean, this is a fact. We had staff that we hired in the summer, and they come in and looked at their room and said, no, thank you, and went to a neighboring district because they had their own room.
Right.
And so that's a draw. When you've got your own room and you don't have to split the room in half and teach with somebody else teaching on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to float from room to room to room. We're living in the age of teachers that can go get jobs at the blink of an eye.
They can. So it sounds terrible to say that a public school system is in competition. You are.
True.
I mean,
Parent
especially with the voucher
Teacher
system
choice.
and things like that, you are in competition in trying to retain students, retain staff. And so we went through all of those lists and everything that was given to us. And what we determined is Coppers Cove High School is 55 classrooms short as it stands today. And so then we needed to reevaluate how can we get 55 classrooms into this facility. And so we kind of went through what types of classrooms are we going to be building. It's much easier to build new a science lab or a CTE classroom than it is to go and renovate an existing classroom into a CTE or science because of the plumbing lines you need to run, the electrical lines and things like that, the exhaust gas. And so we reevaluated the front of the school and what is the current front, and decided that's our best place to add square footage. And so we're reorienting the plan a little bit, moving the office suite around because we need that space on that side of the building to expand the CTE program.
For storefronts.
It is the most logical, most economic place to add on to the building, structurally, geographically, economically, socially, all of it, because the idea that we're putting forward here is the CTE programs that have the appropriate ability to could open storefronts to the community. And that's programs like vet tech, culinary, printmaking, floral, those types of programs can then open up in a very secure way, open up to the community where they can come in and participate in these programs. And not only are we teaching a student how to run a kitchen, but we're also teaching a student how to run a business. That's one of the biggest problems that we have as we're putting a bunch of people into the workforce that don't know how to run a business. They don't know about their taxes, and they don't know profit and loss statements and things like that. And so when we're giving them the opportunity to bring in the economic component to their CTE trade, it just builds that program so much bigger and so much better, and it prepares those students so much better for stepping out into the workforce. And so that's where we started. We started with the CTE and built our way through the plan.
So it's really the
focus.
Heart
it's
of the whole plan. Man.
Absolutely. And in today's society, it should be. I mean, that's where we're at in a society right now.
60% of our kids want that at Cove High. They want skills, crafts, and trades. Mm-hmm. And so, in 1970s, early 70s, late 60s, That wasn't necessarily the case. You had ag and home ec, but as far as a kid that could come in to be a LVN, or a kid that was coming to Cove High to be a cosmetologist, or a kid that was studying robotics or computer science. I mean, I can go on and on. Those things weren't thought of when that building was built.
Correct. Well, they didn't exist. And so now what we're trying to do is put these modern programs in antiquated facilities. And the things like, let's say, robotics, that lab, that most people would think that a robotics lab is a classroom just like any others and just has a clear open floor space. That's not true at all. When you do your tours, I would encourage anybody to go out and go take a look at your robotics lab and just see what we're having those kids work in today. And I will kudos to the Cove staff and the CTE teachers and the success that your programs are having with the constraints that they have placed on them. Your teachers are doing a phenomenal job working with what they have. We just need to put the proper facilities, the proper resources in front of them, and honestly, the sky's the limit for those programs. And we started there, but then it built into the rest of the high school, your core curriculum classes, your histories, your maths, your sciences, and working through there. So today's day and age, we've got to worry about school safety. And walking through Cove High School for the first time was confusing, quite frankly. Hallways all over the place. We had single loaded corridors, which is an inefficient use of space. Every corridor seemed to be a different width and different size. And where we've got some of the SRO and marshals on campus. So we had to take all of those things into account. And how can we get all of these classrooms in here, move the students around through the building? Because the last thing we need to be doing is adding time to the day, because we have to allow 10 minutes between classes to let everybody move around because everything is insufficient in the way that we have arranged it. And so all of those things need to be taken into account. And then we have things on top of that like TEA minimum standards for classroom sizes, and it depends on what subject is being taught in that classroom as to what that size is, what age group is in that classroom. And so we're working with those. And then we start building the rest of the floor plan of the school. And we reoriented, we reorganized, and that's why this bond is different than the last one, is because we are more efficiently utilizing the space under your existing roof right now. And instead of building so much new, we would run the risk of really overbuilding. And those core classes, we met with the district and found out how many of each there were, and how each school district and each high school is different in the way they like to organize their classes. Sometimes they're together in teams, sometimes they're together in grades, sometimes they're together in subjects. And organizing them that way. And they all have their merits. They all have their successes. They all have their shortcomings. You get into shared facilities between English programs if they're all together, but you have an efficiency of moving your students around if you're organized by grade. And then when you have your grade level offices, they can be segmented with their grades in the building. And so, there's not a ton of commingling between grades. So we worked with the district on how they wanted to organize their classrooms, and then rebuilt the inside. We kept the structural elements, and we kept the roof, and we kept the foundation. And beyond that, we really viewed it as everything's fair game. We kept the 4 perimeter walls, or so to speak, and we began working in the footprint that you have as much as possible. And that's one of the reasons I got into this line of work. I love that puzzle. I love working with what you have and trying to give you something new, something better, economically and efficiently through design. And I believe we achieved that with Cove High School.
So, like in this building, there's people, so they renovated Fairview Jewel. Well, there's like a segment,
A part of it
that's renovated, but the vast majority of it hasn't been touched since 1965, and the high school is the same way. And so, I've had people ask me, do you have any renderings of the high school? What's it going to look like? And I've said, the district went out for a bond. There was an architect that drew renderings in that first proposal, and now here we are. And we're definitely going to put these diagrams up and everything, but I'm not convinced that we need to draw renderings until you get the money to do what you need to do with it. And so if the bond doesn't pass, we don't need the renderings. If the bond passes, then Hudson gets to draw renderings. But I say that to set this question up. I talked about Nicholas Sparks earlier, and let's talk about Matthew McConaughey. He had that movie, A Time to Kill, where he says, close your eyes. So if the bond were to pass and I close my eyes and, 3 years from now I'm walking down the hall of Coppers Cove High School, what is it that I'm going to see? I mean, is it going to be, just a splash of paint, or what could I expect to see out of when you say renovation? What does renovation look like to me?
in this? So that's a full spectrum, and I want to say, when we went through this bond planning and we started talking about the three priorities, the three highest priorities in Cove High School, Fairview Jewel Elementary, and Cove Junior High. Some of them have been touched in throughout the years and upgraded a little bit here and there. So we're not talking cosmetics. We're not coming in and putting on a new floor, changing out some ceiling tiles and a coat of paint and patching some holes in the walls or anything like that. We're talking extensive reconstruction. I mean, it's probably a better term for it rather than renovation. It's reconstruction. And the plan we have right now, I would say 80%, maybe 75% of Cove High School is going to be completely new.
So when I close them eyes and I open those eyes in that scenario, I could be opening my eyes at Chaparral High School or Dripping Springs High School or any of the new.
The idea is when you walk into the building the first time, that you don't know that building's been there for that long. Our goal is to make it a new building at the end of the day. We're not putting lipstick on a pig here. This is a complete and total reconstruction that when you walk in, it feels, looks, smells, everything like a brand new school. And you can't walk through it and go, well, here, this was an add-on, and we added that wing on in the 80s. And
I went to school there, and
we redid.
That was my English
this.
class.
That is kind of out the window here, and it's mainly because that's what we need to do to reorganize the space to meet your current needs. And so it's not putting on some finishes. We're not doing this bond to make your building pretty. We're doing this to make your building functional. And at the end of the day, we're going to make your building pretty. I promise you that.
Gotcha. And so moving into Fairview Jewel, where we sit today, it's the same thing. You're looking at construction of the cafeteria in the middle to tie the whole campus together for safety and functionality, and then you're pulling in the specials with that, but you're also hitting that renovation there. So it's in essence the same thing. And you walk over to Cove Junior High, and it's the same thing there. We've got we got a building here that was in 1965, and some of it hasn't changed. And so some of the folks that's in this community can walk in here, and the classroom still looks the same.
Looks exactly the same.
And I think the same thing can be said at Cove Junior High, is that there's parts of that building that looks the same as they did the day that they were open. And so the goal is to do those other two campuses the same as at the high school in Proposition A.
Well, and you're familiar with what we did at Lufkin Middle School
Oh,
with their
absolutely.
most recent bond. So we just wrapped up phase 3 before this school year. This has been a 3-year construction project for them. So Lufkin Middle School is, at one point in time it may still be, I'm not exactly sure, the largest middle school in the state of Texas for a number of students. And we kept that building operational over a 3-year phase construction process. And when you walk in that building today, remarkable is really the only word for it.
I student taught in that building. It was Lufkin High School when I student taught. Coach Jesse Walker passed away here not long ago, and I student taught under Coach Walker. And we have a lot of kin folks together, and we go way back, and that was a very special time. The intercom at Fairview is coming in loud and clear for us. So, but yeah, the other thing there is the same thing. I saw the same plan at the current Lufkin High School. Used to be Junior High East.
It did.
And that whole thing, when you walk in that building, you can't tell that unless it's some old guy like me that knows that was Junior High East. You would walk into Lufkin High School and you'd say, hey, that's a new building.
Absolutely. Yeah, that old core is still in there. But you've got to know what you're looking for to find it. You have to know what was there. And no student today is walking through there.
No.
Because they don't remember Junior High East.
They weren't born.
I think it already switched by the time they were born. But it's renovation. Most people think of it like a home renovation, where you're going to come in, you're going to change it out. Maybe your color scheme's been browns and golds for years, and now you want them grays and blacks. That's not what we're doing here.
Right. You're not moving from dark paneling and shag carpet to shiplap and recessed lights and stuff like today, huh?
Right. We're going from, throughout the years when these different wings have been added to it, 70s, 80s, 90s facilities, we're going to bring them into 2025 and be able to carry it into the 2030s and the 2040s and really set the standard for school districts in reusing facilities that they have. I honestly believe more should be doing that. Right now, we've kind of gotten to a throwaway culture, and so it's just...
Well, it's more convenient. It's nicer to be able to build a new school out there than rather to do, like you said, at Lufkin Middle School, to go in and have to manage safety and students and get that thing done that way.
It's over, I think it's 350,000 square feet or something like that when it's all said and done. We made it safer, we made it nicer, and we just brought the standards up, and that's what we'd be doing here as well.
So moving on from Proposition A, Proposition B, that obviously the locker room deal is not much of a a conversation piece. There's not enough lockers for the kids. We go from 4A to 6A. We got more kids participating than any time in the history of our school, and that's going to continue to grow. So lockers are lockers. I know that we've had some kids, tell me that they've dressed out, and then, like in one segment of their locker room, literally when it rains, it's like down in, I think the kids call it the dungeon. And so, they get ankle deep in water. And so the locker room deal is pretty self-explanatory. But in Proposition B, exactly, tell us just kind of a little bit about the goal of expanding the band hall and because we've got a real nice band hall. but it's one building, and you're putting in another building. And so, what does that new construction bring to the table in Proposition B?
Well, you're right. You do have a nice band hall. It's just not enough band hall. So Cove has a great, very proud band, as they should. So when we go through and we look at the number of members that you have in your band, each one of those band members has an instrument with them, and some of them are tubas, and those take up a lot of space.
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest problems the band hall has right now, is there's not enough space to store uniforms, to store instruments, to store props, to store music. And then there's not enough space for all of the different sections to break out and do their practicing. We have the one large band hall, but we can't, music isn't one of those that we can have, the trombones practicing over on one side of the room.
Can't have the intercom bleeding into your podcast.
Well, and then we have the flutes and, over here on this side practicing, and in that corner we've got the clarinets. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
That's the physics of sound. And so we have to give those different groups and different programs their proper practicing spaces. And so the addition that we're putting on is adding a second band hall. It's not as big as the one that you currently have now, and that's intentional. That is going to be more of what we call an ensemble band hall. And then that will come with additional breakout rooms for smaller instrument groups to break into. And then with where it's located on the campus and the additions that we're adding on to, we're going to kind of creep into the fine arts facility and reclaim some of that space in there for the band hall as well. So that way we're not overbuilding, because we're going to use a room that's inadequate for what it's instructing, and we're going to turn it into storage. That's a very easy, very inexpensive thing that we're going to do. Where I was weighing the option of, do we come in and renovate that room to meet the needs, or can that room be a part of the new construction where we're doing and I build it new? What's better for me, to build a storage room or take a room and build the room that's necessary for instruction? And when we started weighing those options, that was our best step forward. And so we've reoriented a lot of that space and created this second band hall space for your growing band.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, you've got Mr. Morales, that's the new band director there, and he's got state level experience, and, he definitely wants to get, the pride of Cove on that level. And so I think you can reasonably look at that band and say, hey, that program is fixing to grow. You've got a program that, at some point foreseeably should be able to handle 300 kids, and of course that facility is not designed for 300
Right.
kids.
Well, we've got to take a look too on, let's say Cove football plays away on a Friday night. That band has to load up everything they have and carry it to where they're going. And so with this addition, we're looking at ways that we might be able to assist the band in whether it's the addition of roll-up doors or a loading dock or a ramp, parking spaces that are designated to take trailers right outside the band hall, and just trying to make everybody's life a little bit better.
Sure, and that's not that uncommon. My former district, they had those things, and it did, especially if it's 1 o'clock in the morning. It definitely helps from that standpoint. Let's tick over to Proposition C. That's the open air pavilion that I know I read on Facebook in the last bond that somebody said that it was an indoor practice facility, and that it was something like that the Cowboys would use and everything. And so there's lots of different spectrum of what that thing actually is, and I'm just going to tell you full disclosure. Everybody says well, I bet Dr. Hawkins got everything that he wanted in this bond. Well, number one, it wasn't about me. It was about that committee, But one of the things that I did try to say is this. I believe that, my experience tells me that the more turf that you can put down, number one, from a water scarcity standpoint, that is good. From a financial standpoint, that is good. From a student standpoint, it is good because, our band kids are out here on asphalt practicing in the Texas heat, and that's not what they participate on. They're going to march in marching contests on turf. And so, they need to practice on turf in order to get the same experiences that their peers are getting in other schools. And so, I tried to lobby unsuccessfully to the committee and to everyone to just go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put turf down. And I understand why we didn't, because if you put turf down, then if you do the pavilion, then it's a little more expensive because of the sheer size and the iron that you hang in those things. It pulls a lot of things into play. And so I realized why it didn't, but it definitely was something that I tried to lobby for. And like I say, I'm not pouted up and, going to just say, well, I'm mad or anything like that. I'm like, sometimes you're on a team and you look at the consensus of what people say and you respect their values and what they're trying to do for their community, and you move forward, because at the end of the day, that's the way the process goes. But just tell us a little bit about that pavilion, how it's designed and those things.
So on the existing practice field right now is where we've proposed to change the field to a turf field and then put 100 yards of covered pavilion over it. So it'd be a pre-engineered clear span structure that is really just a shade structure. We're talking about reducing the ambient temperature on the turf, and for those students who are training on that or practicing on that. And so we looked at the possibilities. What does it look like if this is an indoor facility? What does it look like if we put in, 4 walls with just a bunch of overhead doors that can open up and it gets a cross breeze? We're working with a school district right now that we're putting in 100 yards, both end zones, heated and cooled. So there's a number of ways that we could do this, but to economically get the need met for Cove ISD, this is the proposal that we're putting forward, is to cover it, put it in the shade, and then it becomes a multi-sport, multi-organization field. It's something that's going to be able to be used every hour of the day. Right now with the practice field, if it rains, that practice field is unusable by any program for a certain period of time until it dries out. With the turf, we can be on it same day, and it can be practiced on by the drill team in the morning, the football team throughout the day, and the band in the afternoon. And the wear and tear on it, it's still going to hold up, as opposed to a traditional grass field that's taking that much abuse to it.
Absolutely, and I just think if you listen to what Hudson said there, that we won't be the one of the first 5 districts in the state of Texas to do this. There's obviously districts all over that has an indoor facility. There's districts that have what is proposed in this, and so it's not like we're even really a pioneer in this.
Right. And the trend is to do just the cover, because that's meeting the need.
Because you're trying to avoid the wet bulb practice ban.
Yeah, there's the 2 things that we're trying to alleviate here, and that is water and temperature. And so we're trying to keep it dry and cool it off.
Right.
So the trend is just to put the cover, because you're achieving it that way in a very economic way. Now, any point in time in the future, could we come in and pour a perimeter beam around it and put up 4 walls? Absolutely. That's doable.
So for the confusion, though, that there's multiple practice fields in the bond, this is the only turf. This
Correct.
Proposition C
Correct.
is this one practice field, and I know that I've seen folks in Hot Topics talking about all these practice. Well, no, it was one field that the turf is going down.
Yeah, there are multiple
And,
practice fields,
Sure,
one turf.
One turf.
Yes.
And so I know the bell's about to ring, and so it's kind of like the Academy Awards. They'll kick us out of here at some point. But, I think you've seen 92% of the districts in the state of Texas are playing on turf in high school football. And so baseball, softball is the same trend. Everybody's rushing fast because, like right now, we're trying to get core samples off of the baseball field, and right now we can't do it because you know what outside looks like. I mean, it's hot. It's Texas heat. But yet at the same time, we can't get core samples in the baseball field because it's too wet. Mm-hmm. And so same thing Hudson said, it inhibits the practice time on muddy fields. And so, but let me ask you this, Hudson. Economical. Districts are saying it's economical. You continue to have customers tell you that it's cheaper to, once you get the initial investment, to continue to maintain that field than it is fertilize, labor.
Oh, absolutely.
Herbicide.
Yes.
And all of those, and then labor of painting the fields and things like that.
Right. And that's so. It's not as simple as just kind of rolling out a flat piece of land and planting some grass on it, and you go play kind of sandlot style sports. To get a practice field to a standard of competition, which is what you're practicing for, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of money. And back to the hindrance on practicing, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, whose daughter is a just fantastic soccer player, and we were talking about practice time being missed on a weekly basis, and then that's 52 weeks out of the year, and then by the time your child is of a certain age, they're hundreds of hours behind in training compared to their counterparts that they're going to go compete with.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
And so it's when a sports team or a drill team or an ROTC program can't go get on the field and they can't practice, somebody are else already behind. It's it's just one day. Okay, but what's one day?
Compounded
every week,
interest.
every other week, or it's
Right.
the hours behind, especially when you're in programs that are worried about timing and syncing, whether it be dance or ROTC or a football play running on a count. And those, when you don't have the time and the opportunity to practice those, you fall behind.
So here's another point. One of the folks asked me a question about the cost of the turf, okay? And they said, why, Dr. Hawkins, would you put a turf field down with a life expectancy of 10 years and you're having us finance this thing for 30? Here was my answer. Did you buy a car? And they said, well, yeah, I did. I said, well, okay, here's the deal. Did your tires outlast the amount of the 60, 72, or 84 months that you were paying for that car? And they said, well, no. I said, well, it's the same thing. When that field needs to be maintained, we need to come in and it's been 10 years and now we need to do something with the field. I think it's important for our folks to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're not putting down a whole new field.
Right.
We're pulling the carpet up.
Right.
And that's so your initial cost of subsoil and rock and
It's the things you don't
mat
see.
and you've got a concrete barrier that you pour in there. All that stuff's still there. Mm-hmm. You replace the carpet.
Right.
And so it's you know, just like buying a car. You know, your tires wear out, you replace the tires. Well, I bought that car and new tires was on it. Exactly, but the cost is minuscule up beside replacing a whole field. Am I right?
Yes. And I think what's important to note on that too is when you're looking at the product data and life expectancy of the turf, we're looking at one that's being exposed to elements all day, every day, UV rays and things like that that are deteriorating product. When it's under the cover like that,
Good
that
point.
expectancy is extended. Years ago, my senior year of high school, Lufkin built 50 yards of indoor. They built a 70-yard building. 50 of it was in indoor football, and we turfed the football field at the same time. The turf on the indoor field lasted 3 returfs of the stadium
wow.
before the indoor needed to be redone.
Okay.
And so it's when
I
it
hadn't
gets
even
that
thought
cover.
of that. I learned something.
When you get that cover, your expectancy extends.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's something I learned, because 3 life expectancies would put that field at 30 years. So that's or close to it.
It could
anyway.
theoretically it could.
And so that's something that I haven't even thought about. And so, you know, just because you're over half a century old, you still can learn some things. And so, but hey, y'all, we're going to wrap up today, and I would just I want to thank GLS for you know, all of the work that they've done. They've provided outstanding customer service and been a great partner in this process, and being able to lead us through all of the questions and things the committee had, and going through this with us. And it's been a pleasure to work with those guys. You know, I know that we'll continue to move forward, because I know the board's got some projects that they're going to do regardless if the bond passes or fails. And so they're going to be working here and doing some things, and we're proud of that. But with that said, we'll wrap up, and we just want everyone to know that the website will be stood up fairly shortly. You should be getting letters and emails from me if you can hear my voice, as well as when we're going to do those community meetings. And I look forward to seeing everyone there, because, like I say, we believe the school belongs to the community, and we want ownership of Dog Nation. I know that there's a lot of people who bleed blue, and we look forward to engaging and hearing your thought as we move through this process. Other than that, God bless, and go Dogs.